Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this very special Songwriting Simplified for Halloween 2024 with my good friend Rich Cresswell over there in the blurry studio. How you doing, my friend?
Excellent.
There you go. So we started the show with my piece for Halloween, which is called, you probably will have guessed the title, but it's already called Bagpipe Murder, because that's what we start off with. We start off with a bagpiper who gets brutally stabbed, and then the guy calmly walks away. You could probably hear the footsteps in that piece. And then it kind of goes a little bit over the top melodramatic after that. But that was a fun piece to do. I kind of started a wee bit late with it, to be fair. But I got it done in the time. Not that I can actually enter my own contest, but I got it done in the time. So that was mine. Rich, I believe you did one, didn't you?
Yeah, but I kind of I did one for the mix actually, so people could mix it, and I pulled apart an old song called I renamed it Man Bat.
Man Bat, yes.
That's a very rhythmic kind of thing.
Yeah, it's really cool. I really liked it, and I think some people had certainly made use of elements of that for the contest, which is cool. So, on the subject of the contest, we have winners.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, we hate giving things away. So
I know it's the worst part of it, really. No, it's not. It's the best bit. Yeah, some really good submissions as per usual.
Standard was very, very high once again, which impressed me very, very greatly. Pleased me a lot. You guys are really pulling out, to use an organ metaphor, you're pulling out all the stops for these contests, and you guys are clearly learning plenty from the things that we teach here. In between, January and through to November, you guys are learning a lot, and you're applying it to your songwriting and actually fulfilling a brief. That's one of the biggest parts of challenges like this, is being able to fulfill a brief and actually do what is being asked. So in this case, using the Dorian flat 5 scale or the regular Dorian scale, and making a piece of music that scares the living crap out of somebody along the way. So we, from that point of view, the brief was relatively straightforward. Scare us and use one of two scales. And then Rich very generously provided a whole bunch of materials that would help give you guys a kickstart, which is very cool. And so even though this contest is done and dusted now, there is still in the workspace a samples folder full of stuff that Rich has very kindly provided. And you can just grab that now, and you can make use of it in anything that you want to use it for going forward. I believe including commercial stuff.
Yeah. I'm not going to send any lawyers after you, any solicitors or anything like that. So you can grab that stuff from the workspace if you're already in it, and maybe you have or haven't already downloaded them. As long as you remain in the group, those samples will stay there. So take them as and when you feel that you need them. They're categorized somewhat because there's some vocal style effects, and then there's some sort of Foley style effects as well. So yeah, make use of them. You don't need to just use them for Halloween. Just, you can incorporate them in future productions, and use them freely.
There we go. Very, very kind of you to provide all of the resources for these contests. You excel yourself pretty much every time. So it's a great help to everybody, being able to give them something to play with to make the music. Kind of reminds me of in the movie Apollo 13, if you've ever seen that movie,
Yeah.
where they have a problem with CO2 in the lunar module because it's designed to carry only 2 people for 2.5 days, and yet it's got to carry 3 people for 5.5 days. And so the CO2 builds up more than the scrubbers on the lunar module can handle. So they
Yes.
have to devise a way to make the cartridges for the command module fit into the slots for the cartridges on the lunar module. So the problem is the cartridges for the command module are square, but the ones on the lunar module are round. So they have to basically find a way to fit a square cartridge into a round socket. And so, but they can only use stuff that's on board the spacecraft. So suits, hoses, flight plans, stuff like that. And so kind of what we do in terms of giving you materials reminds me of that it's kind of like, okay, you've got to make a piece of music using all of that. And
Yeah,
so,
it's a tricky balance as well.
yeah,
Given the scales that we're sort of asking people to sort of write a song with him. But the point, I suppose, is that with the scales themselves, like in this instance, the flat five,
yeah,
the Dorian flat five, we're giving you kind of like almost like a path. This is the path you must take, and it's
yeah,
up to you how you traverse it. And all these extra sounds and bits and pieces, they're there to sort of kind of help you along a little bit, help create like the vibe. And it's often how a lot of songs get started. It's just from the vibe, as
yep,
opposed to melodies and chord structures and that sort of thing. And it was nice to see that some people were able to take the sort of the scale that we'd asked people to try and write music within this time round, and completely like throw their personality at the
yep,
idea of a Halloween song, because it's an unusual one, right?
yep,
I mean, it's a themed song. So I suppose when you're writing a piece of music for yourself, you've got a story to tell, and it's a personal thing. When you're trying to tell a story or create a soundscape from the perspective of a theme, you might think it's easier, but it's not. It's not the easiest thing in the world, and I think the results demonstrate that people were able to kind of express that theme and put it across, and they did a very good job with it. And we've been listening this evening, because we've sort of abstained from
yep,
taking sneaky looks and things like that. So we were hearing things for the first time, and it really was pretty awesome to hear some of the results. It really was.
yeah, definitely. Definitely a really good bunch of examples of different ways in which people approached the challenge, and also approached the idea of trying to be scary. Scary is a hard emotion to capture and to convey in a way that the audience is gonna engage with and go, yeah, I'm scared too. You know, it's it's a hard one because it employs, in order to be scary, it's not just about the sound effects. Sound effects are great, but can you actually do it? The hardest part about these challenges for Halloween is, can you do it if there were no sound effects at all, just using just music alone, just using melody, repetition, chord changes, harmonies, notes that don't belong, so outside notes, chromatic notes,
Hmm.
to create that sense of tension, that sense of fear, without invoking things like what I had at the end there, which was a baby crying pitched down 3 octaves, and then my maniacal laughter at the end, which I then did some processing on. But the challenge for Halloween is being able to scare people just with music alone, and it's hard to do. And yet the entries we had pulled that off, and there are entries that have genuinely given me the chills for sure.
Yeah, and I think given that it's Halloween, obviously people sort of view it a little bit differently. So the song that I created that people could mix, um, I wouldn't say it was sort of on the same level, but it was in the vein of, let's say, um, like a Danny Elfman kind of vibe type song.
Hmm.
And some people interpreted it that way.
Yes,
And
they
that
did.
was kind of nice. That was
Yeah.
kind of like, oh, you saw it. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Um, and there's really cool techniques and things that people can look up when it comes to maybe creating tension and being scary. So I'm sure people are familiar with the film Dunkirk,
Yes.
and there's very subtle sort of music in that to help build tension, and it really puts you on edge and makes you feel really uncomfortable. And the sound that I'm sort of referring to is known as the shepherd tone.
Oh, yes.
It's an auditory illusion, and the idea is that depending on how you set things up, you can have a constant ascending or descending tone. You can do this with a piano or another instrument, but typically it's done with sort of sine waves or triangle waves. And the idea is that it doesn't matter how long that sound is playing for, it will always have the auditory illusion of increasing or decreasing. And it's quite unsettling if you've listened to it for a long period of time. Other things that can be useful to sort of build tension, believe it or not, is actually nothing at all.
Silence. Yeah.
Silence is a really good way to kind of create, some sense of anticipation. You might need to fill in the blank here, Jonny, but there was a famous composer that did a piece called 5 Minutes.
Oh, 4 minutes 33 by John.
4 minutes 33. That's a year.
Yeah, I've seen the big band arrangement of that.
It's
a challenging
it's an
chart,
interesting
man.
piece of music, and so 4 minutes 33 seconds. That's right. Yeah.
Yep.
And the idea is that actually there's no music at all. That's kind of the trick, right?
It
So
is very
the
unsettling.
audience pay. I mean, there's obviously at the performance. Obviously, there's other music, but for that particular piece,
Yeah.
for the 4 minutes and 33 seconds, nothing is played.
Yep.
And it creates this anticipation, and that silence is brilliant. It happens in movies all the time. So you'll hear, maybe breathing or something like that.
Yeah.
Heightened senses. That usually what it's kind of pointing towards. and then all of a sudden you get the jump scare, right? You get the, the dissonant strings, or
Yeah.
a big hit or something like that, and it kind of, and it's always down to timing as well.
Yeah.
So if you're writing a piece of music, and let's say you are writing that piece of music in 4/4, does that, want for a better phrase, jump scare need to come on the downbeat? Because that's going to be pretty predictable when it comes down to it, because although we're not actually counting,
You are kind of
our
counting. Yes.
because we've kind of led, this is the tempo, there's a sense that something should be coming soon, whereas if we did something on the third beat of the bar and pull people out of that kind of tempo, could be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things about Western music, particularly Western popular music, is that, so much of it is in 4/4, and not only in 4/4, but written in 4-bar phrases. And therefore, a 16-bar verse, an 8-bar chorus, an 8-bar bridge, another 8-bar chorus, or a double chorus, so there's so much that's methodical and predictable about it that we can feel how long a 4-bar rest is. You don't even need to count it. We just instinctively know where bar 5 beat 1 is. So if we have a 4-bar rest, we know exactly where to come in. We're not having to sit there counting the bars and beats. And one of the things I like about some country songs, I'm not a country fan unless I'm sitting next to a defibrillator, but there are some country songs where they break that up, where it'll be in 4/4, but then they'll have the last bar is a bar of 6. So, which effectively makes it 4 bars of 4/4 plus a bar of 2/4, or the fourth bar is a bar of 6. Whichever way you feel it. But it's those extra 2 beats that pushes everything off. And so your ability to anticipate where the start of the chorus is or where the start of the bridge is pushed by 2 beats. And just that alone can be very unsettling. So when you then translate that into something where you are deliberately trying to scare your audience, being able to deal with, different meters like 7/8, 9/8, 11/8, 13/16, things like that are going to be your friend, because then you can make rhythmic phrases, melodic phrases that either have what we would call additive phrases, or what's the opposite? Diminutive phrases. Yeah, where you subtractive phrases. And it's those kind of things where you can just pile up tension by using additive. So you start with a phrase that's like 3 notes long, and then you add a note, you add a note, you add a note, you add a note, until you've got, like, I don't know, 15, 16 notes long. And then you maybe a little bit later down the line, you take that phrase, you reverse it. So maybe it's ascending, then you reverse it, make it descending. But each time you're playing the descending phrase, you shift the phrase down a step, but you also subtract a note from it.
There's loads of cool things that you can do with like rhythm. Rhythm is probably, aside from obviously, chord structure and stuff, rhythm can be hugely important, like in how the music turns out. And you break rules by all means. You might have something in, like 5/4 or something, but write it as if you were writing it in 4/4. And then when you feel that it's appropriate, you can make that change. Obviously, you can make use of like tools in Studio One to set up these time changes. But I suppose until you're getting there, you don't know when to make those changes, unless you've got some sort of prior knowledge and you've got it written down, you know what you want to do. But definitely, sometimes it might be useful just to sort of open up Studio One and say, hey, I'm going to do a song in 7/8 today.
Yeah.
Open up the time signature, on Studio One and put it in something different.
Yeah.
Maybe just do something real simple, like what does a kick and snare sound like? If I just do a kick and a snare, what does that sound like? How many times does it take for that to repeat? Do dotted notes, like how many times does it take, for the dotted notes to repeat? And
Yeah.
pretty interesting. It's actually pretty cool. And you could do, say, for example, like a hi-hat, and I'm using percussion here as an example because it's actually really easy to identify what's happening with the rhythm. But if you have a kick, a snare, and maybe like a hi-hat and a cymbal to accent the downbeat, just do a hi-hat 4/4, and then maybe do the kick in like dotted.
Yep.
And then maybe do the snare like triplicated, and make sure that cymbal's on the downbeat or whatever. And you get some pretty interesting patterns in it.
You can.
Eventually what happens is it develops and it does repeat, and it overlaps, and it does some pretty interesting things.
I mean,
and
this is why
it can be useful to really put people off as well.
This is why minimalist music is so well used in horror films, in particular, because you can do those kind of things to build up tension, like little rhythmic cells that you shift around, or melodic cells that you shift around. And you shift it back or forward by a certain value every time you hear that melodic cell rhythmically and in time. And so the listener is hearing it, but they're not hearing it at a predictable time, but they're hearing the same phrase come up again and again. And you can juxtapose like you're talking about. Now, the cool thing in Studio One is if you use the pattern editor, there is a way in the pattern editor to set the different rows in the pattern editor to different values, and then you can have them repeat at a different point, at a different value. So, like you said, you could have the kick in 7, you could have the snare in 5, you could have the hi-hat in 3, and then just set them off, and then have a crash cymbal every time all of those line up, where all the math adds up, and you get the downbeat for all of those together. And you can get all sorts of interesting, crazy little polyrhythms until they all line up again, then they go away, and then they come back. And so, those are really great little tools and concepts that you can use to make music that you want to scare people with, that you want to draw out tension.
Yeah, and if you well, for a better phrase, if you want to sound like intelligent, if you want your music to kind of stand out, sometimes it can be useful to do like weird things. I mean, Money by Pink Floyd, everyone knows it, right?
Yeah.
I assume everyone knows it. It's a very unusual time signature for a song that's played on the radio, and it was played on the radio non-stop when it came out. It was a real long time ago and everything. But there's artists out there currently, like Tame Impala's like a good example, who, that will use, dotted notes over a 4/4. So the kick and the snare's doing the thing that you expect it to do, but all the other stuff's kind of like, feels like it's slipping behind. It's not.
Yeah.
But it makes it a little bit more interesting. Billy Ocean did a lot of weird stuff with bass and stuff. Had a lot of dotted, kind of patterns and stuff like that. And
on the subject of Billy Ocean's bass player was my bass player for a little while.
There you go. And what a bass player!
Outrageous. Yeah.
Slick and smooth.
Like baby's behind.
But, I mean, tension often is derived from not knowing what's going to happen next, and that's kind of an important part of, I suppose, doing horror music, Halloween music, anything kind of like that. We're not necessarily saying that the obvious tropes need to be used, i.e., ghouls and ghosts and witches and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes, like Johnny was saying, like minimalistic music can provide all that you need to create the tension, to make people feel uneasy. And sometimes, it only takes, a change in rhythm,
Yep.
or, a small, subtle change to kind of take people off the axis that they're currently on.
Yeah. Yep.
And there were some actually in the sort of submissions that demonstrated that,
Yep.
and you'll see that potentially in the in the winner.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It's very exciting that we have winners, and actually on the subject of winners and choosing our winners, certainly for me, I thought this was actually not too difficult for us.
Yeah, I think, to be brutally honest, in the past it's been so difficult to pick a winner. It's not necessarily a case of we felt that the others weren't sort of up to par, want for a
No.
better phrase. It was just that you guys will hear it in the result.
Yeah.
But the person that sort of won the original song sort of portion of this really has sort of outdone themselves. They've always been on the cusp as well.
That's true.
And that's the thing. It's like the one thing I think we were both sort of in agreement with, and again, I'm sure you'll agree here, but the consistency
Yeah.
of the person that sort of won
Yeah.
has been pretty. It's been pretty even throughout all of
Yeah.
the contests.
Yeah.
And
He's been unlucky not to win before.
yeah, it's it's definitely a he, and he hasn't won before.
Yeah.
But there isn't just one winner this time, as
That's
we
true.
promised at the
Yep.
beginning of this, that obviously we would have essentially 3 winners. It's not a case of gold, silver, bronze,
Nope.
or anything like that. It's more a case of obviously we gave people different options for the challenge. So as you know, you could create an original piece of music using the scale that we'd kind of laid as a parameter, or you could mix the piece of music that I'd uploaded, download the song and do that, or you could remix using the sort of the audio event blocks that I created, and do something completely different. We didn't get many submissions in relation to sort of remixes or anything like that.
Yep.
If we're being totally honest. So we'll see how we progress with that moving forward.
Yeah.
But it'd be nice to see people take things, and maybe in the future, and I'm thinking off the top of my head here, this is all completely on the fly, but we've got the launcher now, right? And it would be kind of cool maybe if I come up with some sort of clever arsed idea on how maybe we can make use of the launcher, maybe in some newer challenges for those that have access to it, and they're currently on version 7.
Yes.
But
yeah, I think that'd be a good idea.
Yeah, maybe a video I need to do for that, says the Yoda in me.
Yeah, you did kind of get your wrongs in the word order there.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's such a cool tool. It's not just a beat makers thing. You can totally do some pretty neat things with it.
That's the big misunderstanding about the launcher is everyone goes, "Oh, it's just for beat makers only." Really? Where's your imagination? Come on. You can do
But
anything with that thing.
Roger's just put in the chat there. We should have a launcher challenge. But that's not a bad idea.
It's not a bad idea at all, Rog.
It's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Because it's a very useful writing tool as much as it is anything else. You ever had those situations where you're in a band rehearsal and someone's got like a really tasty lick on bass, and you look at each other and you know what you're saying, vamp on that.
Yeah.
I'm going to play over the top of it. I'm going to come up with an idea. Well, if you're in your home studio and your bassist is down the pub, just record something and vamp over that. Like you can use the launcher as kind of like your buddy, right? And use that to come up with ideas, and that's sort of what I use it for currently. I mean, I do make beats and things like that, but I think it's a pretty neat tool to be able to sort of, kind of play with.
It is, yeah. I mean, I'm a jazz guy, and I've been using it and having all sorts of fun with it, because you can create all sorts of vamps. I mean, I'm using it for improvisation, I create all sorts of different vamps, and then I move through the scenes and improvise over the top of those scenes, and the fun part is then triggering different cells from different scenes to basically create an improvised scene that has not previously existed, and then you play over the top of that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a fun way
And going back to that whole thing of like rhythms, it's like sometimes it's very hard to kind of imagine what a rhythm would be. Maybe if you're tapping away on your keyboard or you're tapping away on your guitar or whatever, sometimes you can just open up the launchers with an audio track on and just sort of pattern with your voice.
Yep.
And just hit record on that cell, and then do another cell and record another pattern, like a and record on top of that and get something like really cool going.
It's Steve Reich.
Yeah, go for it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that stuff, and you can use your voice to create percussive patterns behind your music. I mean, why have you got to get like a special VST that does that sort of thing? You can do it if you've got a microphone. Just do it. You can make sounds. And in the chat there, Brett Mars just said, "I didn't see Dorian as being scary before this challenge." And to be honest with you, neither did we.
It's not really a scary scale.
It's not scary whatsoever.
No,
but that's the thing. You can make major sound. I mean, minor scales can sound grand and you're sort of royal.
Yeah.
As opposed to being sort of
dark and
a bit sad and a bit dark and a bit, Oh, I've got sads this year. The dark nights are coming in. I've got the sads.
And of course, minor music can be funky as hell as well. I mean, some of the best funk tunes are all in a minor key. They're A minor or they're C minor or E minor or something.
Yeah. I mean, I and this of me, Johnny. I make no bounds about it. My absolute favorite key to play in is G minor.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll switch that up with the harmonic minor, which just adds a little bit of spice. But then I can kind of play around that. I can actually play around like the D flat, back up, in and out of it, and I can jump into another key should I need. For me personally, it's a fun key. It's one that I'm very familiar with. Yeah. People have got their thing, right? They've got their thing.
Yeah.
And the purpose of these challenges is sort of want for a better phrase, get people out of the rut of
Yeah.
using like the thing that they use all the time. They're kind of, it's almost like
C-A-Y-R-A-T.
having like their finger stuck in their mouth, like they're stuck in their thumb. Because it's easy, right? It's comfortable. It gets you out of your comfort zone and it gets you to explore other things and look at other possibilities.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. There's some good suggestions for future challenges here in the chat.
And yeah, I'm seeing some of those. Awesome.
Yeah, rhythm challenge instead of key or mode. Yeah, I like the idea of that. Voice only. That's a very cool one. Everything has to be done with your voice.
That would be neat.
But we would allow you to use Melodyne for that to help you, because some people like me have a high voice. I don't go down very low with my voice.
Yes, I have the opposite problem, so I can go lower, but
Yeah.
but not super low.
Yeah.
And then I start to go higher, and then it becomes like, do you remember Screech from Saved by the Bell?
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can only go like maybe just about an octave below middle C. That's kind of as low as I go, and then I go up the other way.
Yeah.
But that's mostly because, my voice broke early. I was only like 11, and it didn't drop by very much. It dropped by like maybe a fifth, and then it just settled.
I've just seen somebody turn up that's reminded me of something.
Oh yeah,
and it's something that I said I don't know whether I would do it again. And that's our friend Jay,
yes.
in the chat, Secret Squirrel.
Yes.
So a couple of years ago, I did a bit of a Christmas challenge, where it was a case of we'd all do a choir piece. Each person would be a member of the choir. No singing knowledge or finesse required, because the idea with it was essentially to sing it as if you were at a football game, okay, like you're in the terraces. Jay was one of the first people to get back with some submissions, and ultimately himself and I think Ronald Figura provided some vocals, but that was it. Including myself, 3 people a choir does not make.
No.
But
not even a barbershop quartet.
I know, terrible. And we're not like good enough to be like a Boyzone or NSYNC or something like that, So, but the thing is, I think Jay had actually done 4 or 5 takes of the same thing and just kind of like thrown them in. And I was honestly, to this day, still super appreciative of the time taken to put those together. It was really awesome. But we never got to take it anywhere. And I like the idea of people giving a different spin on this with using the voice. I want people just to put in the chat, just as a test, okay? Doesn't mean that we'll do it, but in the test, would you be comfortable with doing something vocal for Christmas?
I like that idea.
I'd like to see if we just put yes or no, because I appreciate not everyone's going to be keen on doing that. There's a certain amount of exposing oneself, shall we say?
Yeah.
Not in that way, but you know what I mean.
That's 3 yeses so far. 4.
Okay, that's interesting.
5. 4, sorry.
Because we did something in the Christmas challenge last year, didn't we? Where it was kind of We did Carol of the
6,
Bells, and I think that'll be kind of interesting.
7, 8.
And everyone's got different, you know, but some people are going to be sopranos, some people are going to be tenors.
9, 10.
Okay.
That's 10 yeses, pretty much.
Yeah, and I'll say yes. Why not?
Yeah, and me, so that's 12.
Okay.
Like I say, I sing tenor parts, I sing alto parts, believe it or not.
Yeah, and I think it'd be a bit easier as well because you'll only need a minute, babe, and we could all become a boy band.
At my age, that's disturbing. I'm 50 next year.
I
All right.
think we'd do it. I think we'll have a think about how to go about it and how it will be. We'll try and make it as easy as possible for people.
Yeah.
We'll come up with an idea. We'll think about it.
Yeah.
So
I think yes. I think we do it.
So as we did in the same vein last time, we left it to the last 10 minutes, didn't we? Till we
did.
Announced our winners, because we love to keep people on their tenterhooks at Halloween. It's like
you got 28 people sat here waiting. So so I think maybe we need to unveil our winners and maybe play samples of their songs. Maybe not the whole things, but samples thereof.
I'm gonna say I'm gonna push the bar a little bit here.
Uh-oh. Okay,
the
everybody.
winner gets their whole song played.
The winner gets their whole song played. Is that what you just said?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. All right.
If we can do it.
Yeah, and we can extend the show. It's fine. It's it's early doors. It's not even midnight here. If it were not for the time change, we would not have started the show yet. So
I know. Can you imagine? Everybody would still be waiting for an hour.
Yeah, exactly. You'd still not know. All right. Should we unveil?
Yeah. Do you want me to play it, or should you play it, or how do we do this?
Yeah, you play it. You play
it. Okay. Let's get it.
It's coming over through Skype, guys, into OBS and out to YouTube. So
yes,
but you'll still get a clear idea.
And if you've been and had a listen to the files on the workspace already, then you'll be you'll be aware. Yep. So let's have a look at our submissions here, and we have got. There we go. Such a good song.
It's stupid good.
Here we go.
I'm not hearing it, Rich. I'm not hearing it. No audio.
Okay, we can fix that. It's no problem at all.
Do you want me to play it?
No, I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll bring up the screen, put me on full screen, we'll share it, and we'll show it.
Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah.
Prepare yourselves, folks. I'm going to be in full screen just for a second.
Yeah, you're on full screen now.
Here we go. The winner is. That's my drum roll. It's really, really poor. Here we go.
I'm still not hearing it. Not a problem. I'll play, Rich.
We've got it. Here we go.
Hello and welcome to S1 News. Breaking news out of Scotland today, as the remains of a beloved YouTube host was found murdered in his house. The only piece of evidence authorities have to go on is a recording believed to be made by the perpetrator. Warning to those who may be sensitive to graphic details. This is that recording.
Haggis, so he must die. He celebrates Hogmanay Day, so he must die. He drives on the left-hand side, so he must die. I'll show him Dorian Flatfire, so he must die. We're coming for you, Jonny Lipsham. I need to talk to you, Jonny. Jonny. It's time, Jonny. It's time to die, Jonny.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another Songwriting Simplified. Good night, everybody.
How about a video on how to die? You think now, Mr. Fancy YouTuber? This is Sunday Night Dead. Or is it Murdering a Songwriter Simplified? Personas, more like post-mortem. Have you ever seen a real Scottish kilt? Traditional Scottish haggis. Heart, liver, and lungs, one each. One stomach. Half a pound of suet. 2 onions. 2 tablespoons of ground black pepper. 2 tablespoons of red chili flakes. 2 tablespoons of coriander. Half a teaspoon of nutmeg. Half a teaspoon of allspice. Fresh thyme. 1 tablespoon. Rich, your haggis is ready.
Superb.
That's just outstanding.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely blooming brilliant. Are you ready for me to be in a full screen again?
Yeah.
Oh no.
There we go. We're back. Congratulations, Danny Taylor, for successfully, brutally murdering me and making me laugh in the process.
Yeah. It was. I mean, all credit to everybody that entered, but it was so clever.
Yeah,
the change ups were really kind of unusual, but kind of fit. And when we were going through it, I think I made a comment somewhere along something along the lines of, if you were making like a hip hop song or something, you would sample that song.
Totally, yeah.
That's how good it was. Like if you were like the Wu-Tang or something,
Yeah.
you'd want something off that song. It was really cool, and it totally deserves to win.
Yep, it fulfilled the brief. It scared us. It had all the elements. It had the Dorian flat 5 very creatively used, and the bass and the piano part were perfect. It kind of had a jazzy element to it, which is great when you're talking about killing
it was
meat.
sick.
It
it's
was
kind
great.
of appropriate as well, given that it's for Halloween. So, yeah, it was really good. I was actually really impressed by it, and I thought it was a really well put together piece of music. Now, we don't obviously judge things based on their recording quality. It's more to do with like how creative you are with the scale.
Yeah.
And how you've done something interesting with it, and I think that's kind of where it wins.
Yeah.
But not only that, but the recording quality and everything else was put together really nicely as well. And as we said earlier, it's a shame that you haven't won before, because all the other stuff that you've put out previously has always been on the cusp.
Yeah, very, very close.
Now, there's 3 prizes, okay? So in terms of, and this is how I wrote it down anyway. So Danny's like the main mensch, okay? He's the main man.
Yep.
But we also asked people to mix things as well.
That's right.
And we had some mix entries. And when it came down to the crunch, Kyle
for the mix master win.
He is the mix. He's the mix master.
Totally. Yep.
So Kyle, you've actually won a prize.
Yep.
And we had a video champ. Okay, who ahead of time has already kind of specified that they would like to, obviously rescind their prize, and we appreciate that ahead of time.
Yep.
But in terms of video productions, Chris Maragna completely
blew it away.
Wiped the field with everybody. It was absolutely fantastic submission. So what we did is we looked at, who might be a runner-up in terms of the original songwriting aspect of things, just due to the fact that there was more people in that particular category.
Yeah.
From that, we selected Christina.
Yes, Christina.
Who is our hallowed harmonizer.
Hallowed harmonizer. Yep, there you go.
So we have 3 winners, 3 prizes. We'll reach out to you in due course.
Yep, you'll get a message from us both.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, Danny, your prize is going to be a physical prize, like nothing personal or anything. Just
we didn't want to give you a spiritual prize, so
so obviously I'm going to need to ask for some deets and things, Christina, I know where she lives. I won't dox her. And Kyle, Kyle, yours is not necessarily a physical product or anything like that, but I'll reach out to you regarding that. It's reasonable value, actually.
Yeah. Yep.
In total, but essentially, there's going to be 2 physical products, 1 digital product, and we'll reach out to the winners of it, and we'll get you all kind of like kitted out and whatnot. But you guys absolutely rock in terms of the submissions.
Totally
you took your time. and you really, really did think about obviously the scale, the brief, and heck, you got it in on time.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys absolutely knocked it out of the park. Christina is a very well deserved second place to Danny. It was fairly close between those two entries, to be fair. But it was very generous of Chris to let us know that he was going to rescind his prize. So, but I mean, Chris's video was the best.
Yeah, second to none.
Second to none. Yeah, there was,
and
no doubt.
I would also recommend as well, because Kyle, being like the guy that Kyle is, and if you know Kyle, you know Kyle. Go and listen to his mix, because he has done some funny, quirky things that are very creative.
Yes.
And I implore him for doing that.
Oh yeah, totally.
But he also did some other things within the mix where he kind of like messed around with arrangement a little bit, and it kind of bloody worked. The git.
Did. Yeah. It did. Yeah. Kyle's mix was really, really great. It was a terrific mix. And, you know, like you say, he played with elements of the arrangement and added some things to it, which were hilarious and definitely amused us both. But the net result is it was a great mix and everything was perfectly imbalanced. I couldn't fault it. I couldn't find anything where I could nitpick. But there were creative things done with the mix as well. Elements brought out.
I'll find something. I'll find something.
But it was like there were elements of your original track that he brought out, I thought, in a very, very cool way. That made me think of other film composers, actually.
Yeah, and although I don't know whether this was on purpose, or whether it was just not having enough time or whatever, but we did have a very late entry.
We did,
from our good compatriot Ronald Figura, which would have done actually pretty well had it been on time.
Yep.
I appreciate, obviously, there may have been, obviously time constraints and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to kind of shout it out in terms of creativity, sound design, the making use of things that they had. Like, I know that Ron had things around him that made sounds. Yep. Okay, like a cackling witch and some weird stuff. That stuff, I love it. Like that type of creativity where it's like that thing there makes a weird sound. I'm going to record it. I'm going to turn it into something. I love that.
Yep.
And I just wanted to give Ron a shout out for getting that uploaded to the workspace. And as some of you have probably been in and out of the workspace maybe over the last couple of weeks, if you haven't already been in there in the last, say, 24 hours, go and have a look, because Ron's song is in there. I think it's definitely worth having a listen to. Maybe give some feedback on each other as well. So if you're in the workspace, and obviously you've got a song up there, you can go into the workspaces, and you can actually give like a little bit of feedback on each other's songs and stuff like that. And I think that'd be kind of neat as well.
Yeah, please do go and check out each other's entries and leave some encouraging remarks and some feedback. I think that would benefit everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And awesome like response yet again. I think each time that we're doing like a challenge, whether it's Halloween or Christmas or any other point of the year, it does seem to be having sort of like an upward trend in terms of the number of people submitting. And people are not just submitting audio now, but they're also submitting video, which makes it like super interesting and creates like, we almost kind of like becoming like the Oscars, where we've got like different like divisions of how we
different
judge
categories.
things.
Yeah.
It's mind blowing, but
It
well
really
done,
is,
everybody. Absolutely well done. Give yourself a round of applause and a pat on the back.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, a lot of you guys have put in fact, all of you guys have put in a lot of time and a lot of effort into making something for this challenge, which actually really excites me. And, you know, hearing everybody's work and hearing everybody has tried to do something with the material that we gave them and tried to apply things that I've been banging on about and banging the drum about every Wednesday night throughout the course of this year, which is what the challenges are set up for. The challenges are designed not just to give people the opportunity to make a piece of music and fulfill a brief and that, but that's a big part of it. But the main point of them is that you put into practice what I go on about every week and what we discuss every week. And, you know, so, you know, next year is going to be even more topic focused than this year has been. So we're going to dive into some different techniques and different concepts that you can practice, that you can take away, that you can apply to your genre, to your style of music, whatever it is that you do. Everything should apply. Every concept that we talk about over the course of 2025 will apply to your style of music without question. And then it'll be a case of when we come to do next year's challenges, assuming we live long enough to get to that point and an asteroid has not hit the Earth or something like that, or Kenny G has not passed away.
I'm not a fan. I'm not really a fan of, like, you know, those really big life-ending asteroids.
Well, I mean, you're kind of dead, so
yeah, not a
when
fan
it
of those.
happens. I mean, so long as Rich and his coffee machine survive, I think everything will be okay. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rich can repopulate the world. You know, it'll be fine. But yeah, that's kind of where we're going to go next year. So that's kind of my thinking for 2025. And Rich and I are going to design some more ludicrous and exciting contests for people to throw their weight at, whether there are prizes or not. There may not be prizes next year.
And something to bear in mind, and this only came towards like the end of us listening to it, but again, something that I mentioned to Jonny is that you know, one of the entries was, although it wasn't an immediate winner, was so good, okay, that I was like, I need to work with that person to create something.
Yeah.
Okay. And hopefully that will come to being. Do not feel perturbed if, you know, if you've maybe entered once, twice, or 3 times, or 4 times, or whatever, however many times, and you've kind of not been in the running to win or anything like that. There's quite a lot of people that enter this now, and the standard's good. All I would say is, in future, if you feel like you're not hitting the mark, the best thing you can do is just be absolutely bonkers nuts, off the wall, unpredictable. We're not looking for like the best sound production.
Yep.
It's all to do with creativity. Did you do something that's like a bit bonkers and a bit weird? I'm all for that.
Yep,
Weirder
bonkers
the
and weird
better.
gets me every time. Totally. Absolutely. Yeah. So, you know, if you guys want want to take a sample of Kenny G and reverse it and, you know, put it through a drinking straw and reamp that, go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, the sound of that, you know, when you do that little, you know, right click and you empty the recycle bin,
Yeah.
that's also a good sound, especially when that sound's been put in the recycle bin first.
And on that hilarious point, we will bring the show to an end. But we will be going over to Billy Morgan's Zoom to celebrate our winners and for me to finish my Brewdog Punk IPA so that
Absolutely.
I can roll up.
And I'm not sure who Amanda is has just joined in the chat, but if Amanda is in somewhat, you know, some way related to our good friend Danny, then yeah, congrats to all the tailors in the world.
All the tailors, especially the ones that manufacture guitars. Yeah.
Yeah. Hang on a minute.
So that's what he does. All right, folks, we're gonna call it there. Thanks ever so much to the amazing, the wonderful, the marvelous, ever generous Rich Cresswell for his time, his patience, his generosity, and for partnering with me for these songwriting challenges. It's fantastic. I could not do these without you.
I hate myself. Guys, honestly, I wouldn't even be bothered doing these if it wasn't for the awesome people that are submitting stuff.
Yep.
It is making music is very important. Like, it does make the world go around. If we didn't have music, we'd be all miserable sods. You know, can you imagine, like, if you woke up in the morning and all you did was spreadsheets?
Oh boy.
Now, do spreadsheets with a bit of music in the background. It's a bit more bearable, you know.
Yep, totally. Definitely. And that's like wisdom for the year, I think. So on that note, I bid you all a very good Halloween and a good night, and don't scare the shit out of yourselves too much. Now I have to find my end screen. Hang on. Good night, folks.